First of all, what a clumsy killer. You're not gonna get rid of all the evidence? Hello, everyone. I don't have a good intro, but welcome to my car, not my small corner of the world. Today I have a long drive to South Carolina, Columbia. So it's about like a 3.5 hour drive. I am not a spooky, scary girl, but I do think it's fun to partake in a little bit of the scary things vibes of October. So I'm listening to an audiobook by Tiffany D. Jackson. I'm listening to Blood in Water. I love Tiffany D. Jackson. I have read Monday's Not Coming, allegedly, the Carrie spinoff as well. I've read a lot. So I'm a big fan, and I know that this is like the level of scary that I can handle. So I'm going to listen to the audiobook while I drive and then give a review after, but wanted to say hello, and maybe I'll check in halfway through if I get gas. Okay, welcome to my small corner of the world. I did finish the book, but in the video I made immediately after, the yapper in me was really coming out. So let's get into it. Now that I've had 2 days to reflect on this story, I think it's important to remind people that this is like middle grades. So the plot has some holes, not terrible holes, and it is giving Scooby-Doo in many, many ways. We have our 12-year-old protagonist who is solving the crime of the century, which is both Black excellence, but a little hard to believe given like the police aren't so bad, especially in the location where this story takes place, which is Oak Bluffs. So as an adult, there are some plot points that make me raise my eyebrow, like, oh wow, these 12-year-olds are really on 10. But I think if I was like 12, I'd eat this up. I think Tiffany D. Jackson is a phenomenal writer. Her stories are just very fun. I can always expect a very shocking ending from her, so I had a good time trying to predict what would happen. So let's get into the story. Do know that this is going to be filled with spoilers, so I would stop here if you want to read the book. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to the audiobook. The only gripe I had from the audiobook is that Miles, the voice that the narrator would put on for Miles, was so whiny. Like, yes, he's supposed to be like 10 to 12-year-old kid, but it was like, Mom, I can't believe it. The specific voice for Miles was very aggravating to me. It just was like a whiny kid, but that's it. It's very, very small critique. Okay, so like I said, this story takes place mainly in Oak Bluffs, which is a very wealthy Black area within Martha's Vineyard. To be clear, if you were like me at the age of 10 and didn't realize that Martha's Vineyard was like a place, this is not Martha Stewart's vineyard. It is a place called Martha Stewart. Martha's Vineyard is a place. It is not Martha Stewart's, in case you didn't know that. I didn't know this until I was like 15. So hopefully you knew this already. Within Martha's Vineyard, there is a region called Oak Bluffs. Or maybe not even a region. There is a community called Oak Bluffs where there is a lot of very wealthy Black people. And this is where the majority of our story takes place. If you did watch Forever on Netflix, which, chef's kiss, that's where they are, the bougie Black people. So let's start with our characters. Our protagonist of this story, the point of view we are following is that of Kaylani. Kaylani is a very smart-whipped 12-year-old. An important point of the plot for Kaylani is that her father is in jail. Her father went to jail for something having to do with mismanaging funds and maybe skimming some funds from a very wealthy company that he was working at, and is sentenced to jail for like 6 to 9 years. So we are introduced to Kaylani, in which she is talking to her father while he's at prison and talking about how she doesn't want to go to Oak Bluffs because she will not be able to communicate with him. She firmly believes that her father was wrongfully imprisoned and doesn't like any idea in which she is not able to have her daily conversation with him. Besides that, Kaylani is just a very observant girl. She even was going to a mock trial course so that she could learn more about what happens in a criminal trial with the hope to help her father in some way or more people in the future. But the main thing about Kaylani is she does not like to lie, and she is really about figuring out what happened with her dad and talking with her dad. Fair. The next group of people we are introduced to are the Watsons. The lore is that Kaylani's grandfather built the Watsons a church, and because of that, these families have always been very close family friends. The Watsons were like, hey, why doesn't Kaylani come visit with us in the summer in Oak Bluffs? What better thing? So they think they're doing something good to help Kaylani during a hard time and for that family in general, to which Kaylani like doesn't want to go at all. So in the Watson family, we have the grandma and grandpa, so Grandma Watson and Grandpa Watson, and they live at Oak Bluffs full time. And then their two grandchildren, London and Cassie. London is around Kaylani's age. Kaylani notes that the last time she saw her, she was around 5. And then Cassie is, I think, high school age and kind of like moody. When they initially meet, London and Cassie are both like, ew, why are you so poor? What do you mean you don't come in vacation in Martha's Vineyard every summer? Like, you don't even have a phone, girl. What's going on? London also makes fun of her for really liking J-Rock, which I disagree, but Kaylani feels is the greatest of all time rappers. Okay, an opinion, but they are very mean to Kaylani while she's visiting, and it is a very weird scenario in general. Now, in addition to Kaylani and the Watsons family, we are also introduced to Chadwick. Chadwick is seemingly the love interest with Cassie. It seems that they had some sort of intermingling in a prior summer, but we don't get to know about that until later in the book. So we have Chadwick, who is about Cassie's age, so high school age, and then Chadwick's younger brother, Miles. And Miles seems to be closer to Kaylani's age. Like I said, he's the one with the annoying voice in the audio. So those are our main characters in the book. So let's start the plot. We start with Kaylani being at home, and then she's having a little disagreement with her mom about how she doesn't want to go to Oak Bluffs. Boom, they're on the boat to Oak Bluffs, and she is meeting up with the Grandpa Watson, London, and Cassie, who are coming to spend the summer as well. Cassie and London are being mean to Kaylani. Kaylani's thinking about how she doesn't want to be there, and while on the boat, there's a bit of foreshadowing of the story. There is a shark that they can see from the ferry that you have to take from the mainland onto Martha's Vineyard. And on the ferry, they see this shark, and people are like, oh my God, it's a shark. Kaylani's like, ugh, I hate sharks. This is kind of scary. And someone notes that it is a basking shark. Basking sharks are supposedly harmless, but it's something that Kaylani notes, and it does kind of come up later in the story, as you can guess from the title, Blood in the Water. So they get to the Oak Bluffs, they go to the Watsons' home, which is giant and insane and just very opulent. And when they get there, there is Grandma Watson and Chadwick. Chadwick is delivering some tickets for a fundraising charity that is happening later in the summer that the Watsons annually hold. And that is where Kaylani and Chadwick meet. He's like, oh, welcome to Oak Bluffs. This house that they live in is actually phenomenal. I was doing an internship last summer in which I learned a lot about the houses and the history behind the houses in Martha's Vineyard, and this one is really fascinating. In fact, if you can figure out who is the original owner of this house, I will like give you a present or something like that. But overall, Chadwick and Kaylani seem to hit off pretty well, and then he like disappears. Miss Watson's like, welcome, dearie, welcome to our home. Make yourself at home. And London, go show Kaylani around town. So London after groaning about having to do that, takes Kaylani into town, in which they pass a bridge that everyone jumps off of. And apparently it's just like a rite of passage for many, very harmless and very fun. I guess it's just something everyone does. Kaylani notes that she is not a good swimmer, so she herself will never be jumping off that bridge. And London notes that she is scared of heights, so she would also not jump over the bridge, but that it's fun to watch people do it. They go into town and they go into like a few fun spots in which they meet Miles. Miles is like, oh, you seem cool. London's kind of being dismissive, you know, like moody 13-year-old girls. Like that was the vibe London was really leaning into. And then they return home, to which they're returning home late and they run into Cassie trying to sneak out of the house. And Cassie's like, yeah, I'm going to go to a party at the beach. Don't tell her grandparents. To which, of course, London is like, unless you take us. So they somehow manage to get Cassie to take them to this beachfront party where they are obviously not supposed to be there. There's like drinking, and of course they're 12. They're 12, so they look very misplaced. But we run into Chadwick again. Chadwick is at the party, and him and Cassie have like some weird tension going on, but nobody really knows what it is. Kaylani and Chadwick start to have a conversation in which it's brought up that Chadwick also really likes J-Rock and has 2 tickets to go see J-Rock later in the summer. Kaylani's like, oh yeah, my dad's gonna take me to go see J-Rock. And London, of course, inputs in the rudest way possible. The rudest and snootiest way possible, honestly. Oh, you mean when he gets out of prison? So, of course, Kaylani doesn't want everyone to know that her dad is in prison, so she kind of freezes up. But while she's freezing up, Chadwick is looking out into the water and seems to get distracted by something and, like, kind of skirts off. So Cassie runs up to her and is like, what did you say to Chadwick to make him run off like that? To which Kaylani's like, nothing. I was, like, freezing, so I didn't say anything. Chadwick comes back and notices a different friend, that is Jaden. Jaden is an important character because his family has like done the landscaping of the Watson's house for years. So comparatively, he is friends with Cassie in some capacity, but more of like a servitude way of he lives on the island full time year round in like these little gingerbread houses that are much smaller than all the other houses on this island. But he trusts Cassie. Cassie seems to like him, although she's nonchalant about everything, which is annoying. But Jaden is like talking with Kaylani, but then Chadwick sees this and they start to like bump chest a bit and clearly have some sort of beef. We don't know what the beef is yet. This little scuffle results in Jaden punching Chadwick, to which then the police show up and everyone's like, scatter. Cassie decides to stay with Chadwick because he has like blood on his face, and Cassie tells Jaden, hey, can you drive home my sister and Kaylani? So Jaden drives them home and is like, yeah, I'm so sorry you saw me like that. I just don't like what he did to Cassie last summer. That was terrible. And we're like, what did he do to Cassie last summer? Anyway, they get dropped off. They go to bed. Next morning, the Watsons are like, oh, like there's some news out that Chadwick is missing. Chadwick's missing? Oh my god. They're all not, of course, mentioning that they saw Chadwick last night or anything to do with the fight that happened. Like hours later, they find Chadwick is dead. Chadwick is dead at the jump off point for the bridge. They find his body, and an early reporting notes that it looks like he was bitten by a shark. Crazy. They have a funeral, which is very sad. They run into Miles, and Miles is like, yeah, my brother, like, was my best friend, so I'm kind of having a hard time. He gave me these tickets to go see this African-American heritage tour for Martha's Vineyard, and I want to go to honor him. To which Kaylani is like, I got nothing to do, so she decides to go with. They go on the tour, and the Watson's house is a stop on this tour, and it is noted that the house was bestowed to the Watson family from the original owner. Miles and Kaylani are both like, huh? I thought they had bought this house from the original owner. That's kind of strange. Some foreshadowing. This is a nugget that comes back later. So they're back at home, And the detectives show up, and the detectives are like, hey, we're actually ruling this a homicide, and we'd like to talk to your grandchildren about what happened in Kaylani. So they come down and they're like, look, girls, we know you guys were at this party last night. We heard that Jaden and Chadwick got in a fight, and we know, Cassie, that you left with Chadwick. Cassie's like, yeah, I just like left with him momentarily, but like that was it. They're like, girl, we have your fingerprints in the car, stop lying. And she's like, okay, yes, yeah, he was bleeding. So like he did drive me to this parking lot, but we kind of got in a fight and I left, and then that was the end of it. That sounds a little suspicious. Of course, Kaylani, the detective that she is like, this smells funky. So she and London decide that they want to do a little bit of investigating on their own for the sake of clearing Cassie's name, but also because like Miles is really sad. Like there's just too much mystery going on. Scooby-Doo, that someone has to investigate what's going on. In the midst of this, the Watsons do have their fundraiser. They raise the money that they want, but Cassie's being like kind of funky. London's being a prick. A little side plot that is occurring is that Kaylani asks London if she can give her phone number to her dad to call so that her and her dad can have their daily calls again. To which London is at first like, I don't want to give my phone number to a criminal, but eventually is like, yeah, sure. I'll give you my phone number and you can give it to your dad and talk. So Kaylani feels like she has to stay near London all of the time, even if she doesn't want to be around her, just because she doesn't want to miss the call from her dad because he's in prison and like every minute is like 18 cents or something like that, and like valuable to her. So she is just like always trying to stay near London and make sure that London has her phone on her. While they start their investigating, these two power duo, Kaylani takes it upon herself to go through Cassie's stuff randomly, and while she's going through her stuff, she finds some car keys and she finds some sandals with some blood on it. It's looking suspicious. It's looking very suspicious. While she's looking at this stuff, Cassie catches her and is like, what are you doing in my room, girl? So Kaylani leaves and is like kind of shook because she's like, blood on the sandals. You were the last person to see them. They haven't found the keys. They haven't found the phone for Chadwick either. She catalogs this in her brain, and Lennon and Kaylani decide to go to the public library because there's supposed to be a shark biologist giving a conversation. They go and basically just want to know like, what is the likelihood that Chadwick got bitten by a shark, to which Miles randomly pops in because he had like similar thinking, and the guy reveals, oh yeah, they consulted me on that autopsy and that child was definitely not bitten by a shark. Whoever did that cut his body intentionally to make it look like he was bitten by a shark, but he was not. So Miles is like, my brother was like really murdered. Oh my God. Kaylani's thinking, oh my God, something is afoot. And London is just like shocked. She's like really unhelpful this entire book. Very annoying girly. Time kind of moves forward, and one day Cassie asks London and Kaylani if they want to go shopping downtown. Now London is obsessed with her sister, like very much like younger sister is like just impressed by her older sister and wants to be just like her. So she's like, yeah, I want to go shopping with you. Kaylani doesn't really want to go because she doesn't like her and is suspicious with her, but London has the phone that can give her access to her dad, so she decides to go with. And they go shopping. They have Kaylani try on a dress, and Kaylani's like, I can't afford this. Like, I have no money. What the heck? But Cassie's like, no, girl, I got you. Like, I'll buy this for you. It'll be perfect for the white party. And it's just being very nice to them overall. And while they're walking back, Cassie's like, London, why don't we all jump into the water from the bridge? London's like obviously freaked out, but Cassie's doing that. You know, like it'll be great bonding for us, and you gotta be a big girl. So London's like, okay, I'll do it. Kaylani's like, oh, hell no. And Miles pops up at the right time to get Kaylani out of it. And the two of them go and try to look for the phone some more. Another weird investigation that these children somehow pull off is they go to where they found Chadwick's car. and they're like looking around the parking lot that is this restaurant near the jump off point, and Kaylani magically spots a security camera that the police didn't, and they are able to get the guy who owns the security camera, which is actually like a bird watching camera, to let them see the footage. And when they see the footage, they see that yes, Cassie was with Chadwick, but Cassie got out of the car and left. But they do see that there's another car that pulls up in the corner, but there's not enough details in the image to figure out what car it is. So they're like, okay, someone did pull up, but Cassie seems to be in the clear. Yay. 12-year-olds doing the Lord's work, I guess. But they did it, and the guy who owns the footage is like, I'm gonna turn this over to the police. Okay. So there's a lot going on. Miles and Kaylani are not able to find the phone, and they're just like, this is like weird. Anyway, summer moves on, and the Watsons call the girls down and are like, look, there's $1,000 missing from the fundraiser money that we should have had. Where is it? And they immediately start accusing our girl Kaylani of stealing the money. Kaylani's like, I did not steal this money. What the heck is going on? And Miss Watson is like, well, where did you get all those clothes that were in your room? And Kaylani's like looking at Cassie like, aren't you gonna say that you bought them for me? And Cassie's not saying anything conveniently. And of course, Miss London, this girl, London is like, Kaylani, you stole the money, didn't you? You stole the money just like your dad, who is also a thief. Like is like. Like, it was just, girl, come on. Kaylani's like, well, I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to go home immediately. Like, I did not steal this money, and I can't believe that you're accusing me of this. Let me go home. To which, like, the Watsons are kind of like, no. But Kaylani's like, how about you check the security cameras that were there? To which then Cassie's like, you know, it was probably all just misplaced. Do not worry about it. Like, it's only $1,000 in the grand scheme of things. So, like, obviously Cassie was the one that stole the money, and she's just trying to cover that up. But Kaylani's like, yeah, I'm ready to get out of here. I'm ready to go home. I can't talk to my dad. These girls are weird, and I think this lady's killed her ex-boyfriend. Oh, which is a point. They did. Chadwick, as we all probably could have guessed, Chadwick and Cassie dated in the prior summer. The next day goes by, and Kaylani's like literally packed her bags and is trying to leave. Miles pulls up with their other friend, Dexter. I don't know what that kid's name was. And they're like, hey, we need another person to help us on the scavenger hunt that we do every year. Kaylani's like, no, I'm trying to leave. But the Watsons are like, no, stay like one more day. And she's like, okay, I'll go with you. They go out and do the scavenger hunt, and one of the scavenger hunt questions leads them to go to the library. And while at the library, she's like, oh yeah, I can look up the deed for the Watsons' house. I forgot I was like supposed to do that forever ago. So she looks it up. She goes to the librarian, and the librarian is like, this intern came in last summer to ask the same thing, and we were able to figure out whose house it was. Can't remember the lady's full name, but her name was like Alice, and she was like very rich Black woman. We were able to figure out who it is, but I couldn't find any other information on this woman. Like, she's been scrubbed off the face of the earth, which is strange because she seems to have been very active in the social scene of Oak Bluffs at that time. So we weren't able to find any information on this lady, but this is who it was. So Kaylani's like, okay, that's kind of strange, but whatever. They get home, and when she's at home, she sees a photo, and she like unfolds the photo and sees that it is the original owner, Alice, and Miss Watson in the photo next to each other. And then she also saw, when she was at the library, a photo of the maid that is currently at the Watson's house. And she asked the maid, hey, can you tell me anything about the original owner of this house? And she's like, kind of like Get Out vibes, like, I don't remember like anything. I don't remember anything about the original owner of the house. I've worked here my whole life. Weird, right? She finds this photo as well, and she's like, what's going on? Because, like, Miss Watson, like, how did you guys get this house? And Miss Watson's like, oh yeah, she like gave it to us. Like, we knew each other a little bit, but like she just gave us this house, which to Kaylani and me is like not adding up. Like, this random lady that you didn't know that well gave you this house. Something is afoot. Something is afoot. In the midst of all this, they find out that Chadwick's phone has been discovered. And so they find out that it was Jaden that turned in the phone. So they go to Jaden's house and Jaden is like, yeah, I had his phone. Basically, I was helping Miss Watson out with something because she said that if I helped her with this thing, then she'd help me get Cassie, because I love Cassie. He's like obsessed with Cassie. Kind of weird plot point, but whatever. In the midst of this conversation, the police break like the door down and arrest Jaden. So Kaylani runs home. While Kaylani is at home, she asked Miss Watson like another little detail. She's like, so how did you know this lady? And Miss Watson is like, you're asking too many questions, little girl. And you know what? I'm ready for you to go home. I'm ready for you to go home now. Because at this point, Kaylani has said, look, Cassie killed Chadwick. I don't have like concrete proof, but I saw her sandals and there was blood on them. And I saw keys in her car and it's just too much. She was the last person to see. So I think it was Cassie that killed Chadwick. So Miss Watson's like, I'm ready for you to go now, darling. And Mr. Watson's like, girl, calm down. First of all, it's too late, so it's not like we can send her home right now. To which Miss Watson leaves, comes back, and is like, I actually called your grandmother, and your grandmother said that I can put you on the coach bus to go home. Kaylani in her head is like, this is suspicious. She knows her grandmother wouldn't let her cross the street without someone watching her. So she knows sure and well her grandmother would never allow her to get on a bus all by herself to go home. But Miss Watson insists. And so they get in the car, and while she's putting her stuff in the trunk of the car, she sees someone's wallet. Guess who? It's Chadwick's wallet, and in them the J-Rock tickets. So immediately, first of all, what a clumsy killer. You're not gonna get rid of all the evidence? Small, hard thing to believe. Either way, Miss Watson, she's like, oh my God, Miss Watson killed Chadwick. There's like gardening stuff in the car, and she's like, she must have used this to cut in to Chadwick to make it look like a shark attack. So she's like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm about to die, but I want my answers. So she asks, so what is really going on? She's like, look, Chadwick was asking too many questions that I didn't like. And he tried to tell Cassie what he had found evidence-wise about the house, that it didn't make sense that the Watsons had the house, and that she thinks that someone killed Alice, specifically someone in the Watsons family killed Alice to inherit this house. Cassie didn't believe him, which is why we can see on the video that she storms off, and she told her grandmother this, and her grandmother was like, yeah, I gotta get rid of him immediately. She asked Jay to help her get rid of Chadwick, and so literally Grandma Watson and Jaden kill Chadwick and dump his body, trying to make it look like it was a shark that killed him. Additionally, she confesses, yes, we haven't been raising enough money from the fundraiser to sustain us in this house. So I've also got my job back that Kaylani's father worked at, and had been using Kaylani's father's login to steal money to sustain their very expensive Oak Bluff lifestyle. So Kaylani's like, oh, so you're like the ultimate villain. Okay. And of course, this conversation is going on in the car, and she stops right at the bridge point and is like, I think before you leave Oak Bluff, you definitely have to jump. You have to jump off the bridge. It's something everyone has to do. Kaylani's like, oh, this is how I'm going out. Oh, okay. Pushes Kaylani off of the bridge. Kaylani can't swim, so she's like, oh my God, is there sharks in the water? Am I gonna die? But thank God the police arrive just in time. Apparently London, little annoying girl London, tipped off the police and was like, look, I think my grandma maybe killed Chadwick, and I think maybe she's about to kill this other girl that's here this summer. And they believe her because at the same time they were interviewing Jaden, who is like confessing basically to a lot of this. So end of the story. The Watsons are evil. Yeah, the grandma was evil. Apparently the grandpa didn't know anything about this, was just like, oblivious, so he didn't get sent to jail, but the story ends with them all leaving and the sentiment that like there are no sharks in the water. It's the people around you. Very mysterious. But thank you for joining me for this recap. I thought it was a very fun story. Like I said, I love it when it goes out with a bang, and this is my perfect level of like spooky. I am not good with scary, scary things. So a thriller, a middle school level thriller is the perfect level for me. And I thought it was a great read for October and would encourage you to read it as well or listen to the audiobook like I did. And if you do, let me know if you think Miles' voice is very annoying as well. Thank you for joining me in my small corner of the world. I hope everyone is having a very spooky Halloween, and until next time.